Hey everybody, I'm back. I don't know if you're excited about that or not, but I sure am. So, if you follow me on Instagram or any social media platform, I guess, then you know that I have been posting about this new journey that I've decided to go on, and that is looking at myself and using some of my coaching steps, actually using all of them, the process that I use with clients, and making some changes in my life after having a big, aha moment over the winter break and holidays that I got a little comfortable. And I might have been masking a few things with just, I'm good. I made some changes. I don't need to do more. When in reality, y'all, just like everybody else, we really always go back to that one thing that we just can't seem to fix. And it's the one thing that unfortunately holds us in this place of not being able to feel or achieve true happiness. And when I say happiness, I mean happiness with ourselves, being cool with who we are, being authentic, and living a life that I feel we were put here on this earth to live. So, anyways, I am literally fidgeting with my hair right now. If you watch the video, so you guys, update. I'm just jumping into this. I haven't even explained. I am going to attempt now, y'all. I get very busy. So when I say this, please do not hold this to me and be like, oh my gosh, you said you were going to do this and you didn't. I am going to attempt to upload this as a podcast, but also people have asked me in the past to record my podcast. And I'm like, all right, if you want to see me, like if you're watching this right now, messing with my hair, doing crazy hand gestures, that's cool. I don't know. If you don't, then you can just listen to the podcast. But it's kind of a good idea. If I interview people, especially, then you can see us interact and things like that. So I'm going to attempt to do this. We'll see how things go. Anyways, I'm jumping on here. I don't want to make this too long. You know how I am. This podcast is meant for women and mamas, but anybody can listen to it. I guess I shouldn't say that. Even fathers, men, whatever. We are busy. We got things to do. I don't want to be on here for an hour and you don't want to listen to me ramble on for an hour. So my point of jumping on here is, yes, y'all, over the holiday seasons, I was just like, yeah, I've got some work to do. And I think, like I said, it's because I have been retreating to a comfort zone. When I say comfort zone, I watched that whole Netflix documentary with Jonah Hill and his psychiatrist, Phil Stutz. Oh my gosh, I hate to mispronounce his name. Hold on, let me look this up, you guys. It was so freaking good. But I watched that documentary and I was like, this man, not only I feel like we are kindred souls, but he was pretty much saying everything, obviously in a way better way because he's amazing, that I coach, but using different terms and explaining it so amazing in such an amazing way that I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I needed to hear. I don't know, maybe because I coach it all the time and nobody actually says it to me, but the light bulb went off and I was like, yes, yes, yes. This is exactly what I have been needing to hear. Okay, you guys, I'm still searching this. If you're listening to the podcast, that's why I'm like not paying attention. Okay, here we go. Stutz. Stutz. Hope I'm saying that right. Anyway, so you guys, I'm going to kind of relate what he talks about. And then I also listened to a podcast and an Audible, because y'all know I love Audibles, that also touched on this subject. And so anyways, I'm going to use it as I talk about this journey that I'm going on and how I use these coaching steps with my own clients. But the first step that I want you guys to understand and what I'm going through right now, and it's the hardest, is confronting this comfort zone that we live in, y'all. And when I say comfort zone, I mean, I want you to think about what you avoid every day like what makes you uncomfortable. So that could be like meeting new people or standing up in front of a group of people or being vulnerable or making mistakes. Like you don't want to show that you make mistakes, or oh my gosh, there's like probably a list of 100 things I just can't think of right now. You get the point. Traveling, whatever it may be. It could be big, it could be small. But basically, what we do, you guys, to avoid those situations, or what we, I guess, perceive as it's going to be painful, I'm scared, we naturally create a comfort zone. And what that comfort zone is a place that, or I guess it's not really a place, but actions we take to create a space, we'll say space, to make ourselves feel instant gratification and instant ease. So let me give you an example. You are a person who, maybe like me, this might be my example. We'll just say this is somebody else's example. But you may be a person who doesn't like to be vulnerable, right? Subconsciously, like when we'll get to why or how this all starts. But basically, you don't like to be vulnerable to anybody. So you're going to avoid vulnerability exposure at all costs. So an example of a comfort zone for you might be as soon as things are like getting, oh, I feel vulnerable. You might at home just pop in some earbuds, listen to a podcast or an Audible, grab a beer from the fridge and be like, instant relief. Oh my gosh, I'm in my happy place. I'm in my comfort zone. That's what we do. I am sure as I'm saying this, you guys can immediately think about daily things you do to avoid this uncomfortable or painful situation. Now, where does this come from? If you are a client of mine formerly, or you've listened to me, you will always hear me say that in order to make true change, I have women who follow me on Instagram and say, or send me messages that are like, I always try to make changes, whether it's weight loss, whether it's not screaming at my kids, whether it's finding a personal hobby and goal and communicating in my marriage, whatever it is. But I do really well. And then I always seem to just slip back. How do I fix that? Can you help me? And I truly am like, you guys, it's because you're not fixing the thing that's in the past that lives silently underneath the radar. And we keep changing our comfort zone to accommodate that thing that we just don't want to expose to the world. And it usually happens in childhood. Is it obvious what it is in childhood? No. Are some? Yes. So some people, it's an obvious thing. It's a trauma. It's abandonment from your parents. It's abuse. It's being made fun of in front of a classroom. So now you don't want to get up in front of people. Obvious. Or it could be very subtle. Like you're the middle child and you're never heard. You're always at fault for everything. So you're never going to speak up. So this happens, but people don't realize how much that follows you into your life all the way, through into adulthood, and then is sneaking out into the periphery of your life and causing this feeling of unsettlement and not happiness. And then we look outside of ourselves like, what am I doing wrong? You feel guilt, you feel shame, when really, y'all, it's because you're not fixing you. That's it. If you can do that, then you don't even need to listen to me ramble on about this shit anymore. So you guys, what this guy, Phil Stutz, I don't know if I say it right, says, he describes what I am trying to explain to you. And again, he's way brighter than me and amazing. He calls this shadow. Oh my gosh, I love this so much. So basically, all of us have this inner shadow of ourselves that we try to hide. But it's a shadow because it's always there. So basically, he says, whatever the thing is that you are most ashamed of, this part of you, this personality of you, this this idea of you that if you think about right now what you would never, ever, ever admit about yourself to anyone, not your spouse, not a friend, anything, you're shoving that shit down. You're like, no, I am not dealing with that part of who I am. That is your shadow. And what he says is, we are ashamed and we feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want anybody to ever know this about me. And he says, obviously, as a child, if you watch children play outside or if you watch them interact with their peers at school, they are authentically themselves. This doesn't exist. The shadow does not exist. They are like wearing what they want to wear. They say whatever the hell they want to say. They are literally the epitome of living a life authentically. But what happens is those expectations, these social norms I always talk about, come in and they start cutting them down and making them feel like, ooh, this part of me, I guess people don't like. Oh, I'm heavier than other people. I don't want to ever feel like that again. I'm going to hide that, I feel like I'm ugly or that I'm too big or I spoke up and people made fun of me. So, I don't like that. I'm not a person that should speak up. And you start getting cut down and you start creating this shadow or this side of you that you don't want people to know. This is what he says. And so here's the big thing though, and this is what I always try to tell clients. The sad part is you are missing out on life because you cannot be authentically who you are without that part of you. Period. Isn't that mind-blowing, you guys? Because I'm like, oh, yeah. Because it's meant to be you. So if you are hiding something about yourself, you're never really being yourself. And you're like unhappy because you're not yourself. You're not 100% rocking your shit out. I'm like, oh my God, this guy, he's so right. It's like the one way I didn't know how to explain it to my clients. So you guys, he's saying basically you're living in a state of fear, right? And you're avoiding pain. Basically, it's like, I don't want to do these things because I don't want to expose the shadow of mine. So I'm going to avoid, but then you're freaking missing out on life. You don't grow unless you go through pain. Oh my gosh. I'm just like, yes. So where did this impact me? I am literally listening to this and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. So back 7 years ago, again, if you heard me ramble on before, I had this huge life event that basically was the worst. Oh my gosh, you guys, I was at my lowest. Y'all know this if you've listened. If you don't, this is a quick recap. My marriage was awful. I had done everything which I was told to do, had the job, career, kids, home, whatever, but was miserable. And then I had things happen to me that I'm like, what the hell? I did everything right. Why would this happen to me? And I think what happened is that was the catalyst that I was like, all right, nope, not happening today. I'm going to change. And I started questioning and going against some of these expectations. But y'all, I think what happened is I was surviving. So I definitely made progress. Obviously, I wouldn't be coaching or doing the things I wouldn't be doing this if that didn't happen to me. 100%, I got something out of that. However, I think it almost made that shadow of who I am stronger because I was like, well, I'm changing all of this. Great. I feel better. I'm surviving. But this little shadow of myself, nope, not coming out because mine is vulnerability, y'all. My shadow is a person who doesn't want to be vulnerable because I'm so terrified of somebody lying to me and I believe in them and then boom, can't trust them. And so I literally have like not dealt with that. And through the time of these 7 years, I have created a comfort zone that is not healthy, y'all. I mean, it's not horrendous, but I probably shouldn't be coming home. Okay, the early example, of putting earbuds in my ears, popping a beer at times, and like avoiding, right? That's just not who I am naturally. And so let's think about then what I was telling you. This Phil Stutz said, oh my gosh, if I'm saying his name wrong every time, I'm sorry. I was like, yeah. And that's why, regardless of the huge changes I've made, I still can't get that feeling of like joy and I got it together. And, this is great. I'm living the life that I know I'm supposed to be living. And it's because I'm not being vulnerable. That's part of who I am. That's how God made me, right? I don't know if you all are even care about this shit, but light bulbs are like flying off in my head at this point. I'm like, oh, hell. So I said, all right, that's it. I'm done with this shit. I'm done with the comfort zone that's creating habits that obviously are impacting me inside because I know something's off. I'm going to make some changes. So that's where this all came about. You guys are probably like, you're crazy. No, this is really, I go through this stuff too, you guys. And so I want you to join me on this journey so you can see that we're all human. We all get in these ruts and these places that we're stuck if we're not dealing with the actual problem. And so I've made some goals. I have this amazing journal that I purchased that I think all of you need in your life. It's so freaking cool. It has like this daily like prompt that you write on, and it's just a different way of journaling that I've never seen before. So if you're interested, I can discuss more about that in a next episode. But journaling and making these goals for myself and sitting down and figuring out what's my comfort zone, what am I hiding about myself, and let's confront this. All right, I know this is a lot, so I'm not going to go into what my next plan or phase is, like the steps to take then to like get past this, to confront the fears, to say, okay, I know what my comfort zone is. I know what I'm suppressing, this shadow of mine, but what do I do next? That's going to be next. Well, in 2 weeks, I'll talk about that and I'll let you know how it's going. So far, there's only been a couple days that I was like, retreat, go back into the comfort zone. This shit is awful when I'm trying to like recreate this, like, let's come home, let's work out, let's have a discussion as a family. And immediately I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want my earbuds and I just want to go sit down and relax and have a drink and pretend like I don't need to discuss anything. Right? It's tough, but you have to do it in order to almost like unleash this part of you, because then you're not living to your potential. You're a freaking limited version, y'all. You're limiting who you are. So let's think on this. I know this is a lot, but let's just start here. If you want to go on this journey with me, step 1, start with the comfort zone. I think the comfort zone then leads to why or what you're suppressing, right? Because I'm like, why do I do that? I love people. I love my family. I love my kids. Love my husband. Well, it's because I don't want to be vulnerable. That's why, because that's more scary. That seems more painful to me than having to deal and talk and share my feelings, or what I perceive as sharing my feelings, or having to have a discussion about something that makes me feel a little vulnerable. It's just instant gratification, which leads to these horrible addictions or habits. Mine is seclusion and having drinks. Yours might be online surfing and online social media, gambling. It might be, I don't know, alcohol, drugs. I don't know. It can be all sorts of things. Food addiction, just to name a few. So anyways, ponder on this. Leave me comments, questions. You can tell me you are nuts, Jess. None of this makes sense or applies in my life. Perfect. But I'm telling you, I have done the work during a time in my life where it was so hard and I made huge strides. And to find myself 7 years later, like, I'm mean, I'm happy, but gosh, something's still missing. And then I watched that documentary, which, by the way, all of you should watch. And I was like, oh, wow. Yep, this is exactly what I needed to hear. So let me know, y'all. I have missed all of you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know. And we will chat soon.